Here are the answers to quiz 1. Quiz 2 is already live and it's due Friday at 6 p.m., but this might help you to see what the answers were for the first quiz because a lot of the questions on quiz 2 are very similar to these. So these are in random order. They should have been randomly presented to you when you took the quiz, so you might not have seen them in this exact order. The first one is talking about what a slug is. Remember, the slug is just a nickname for the story that we use for, like in the assignment board. So Red Robber, Train Crash, Mr. Muscles. It's just a shorthand way to refer to a story. This one tripped a lot of people up, active and passive voice. I personally find it easier to track down the passive voice sentences. The robber is being searched for by the police. If you think about that sentence, the people that are doing the verb in this sentence, which is searching, are the police, and the police are coming after the verb. So that's a telltale sign of passive voice. In passive voice, we want to have the actor doing the action, and then whatever object comes afterwards is fine. But you always want to think actor, verb, actor, verb. The spill will be cleaned up by hazmat teams. Well, being cleaned up is the verb here. And the hazmat teams are the ones doing the cleaning, but they're coming at the end of the sentence. So we know that that's passive voice. So you'll have another question like that on quiz 2. Be thinking about actor and verb in that order. Which sentence uses proper broadcast style? You'll see a lot of these. Sometimes they're active passive voice. Sometimes they're a lot of their numeral or formatting issues. Number 1 is the answer here. The winner is 21-year-old Eva Diaz. Number 2 is wrong because it's lowercase. Number 3 is wrong because you don't spell out 21. Remember, after 9, we're going to use numerals. And then the winner is Eva Diaz, comma 21 is silly for broadcast writing. We don't use a lot of commas that interrupt ourselves. Number 4 here, President Biden will speak at the memorial event. You would not abbreviate president. And then the 4th one, President Joseph R. Biden will speak at the memorial event, is totally unnecessary amount of detail. Plus, we would never use R, period, because that would look like the end of the sentence in a prompter. So even if you did want to say President Joseph R. Biden for some reason, you would not use a period in the middle of a sentence like that. Number 5, choose the best lead. A man robbed a bank this morning is it's short and sweet, but it's too short and sweet, right? We didn't get any details in there. That is just a throwaway lead. We didn't put anything in there, and we easily had the opportunity. Number 2, a Richmond man is on the run after he robbed a bank in Richmond this morning. You're going to catch what's wrong with that if you read it out loud. You say Richmond twice. Sorry, my son is home today. It's been a day, guys. Number 3, police are looking for a man who robbed a Richmond bank this morning is the correct answer. You got enough detail in there that it was a Richmond bank. We got the active voice and the now element of police are looking for. And then number 4, to rule out because it is lowercase. That should be an easy one by now. Number 6, rescue crews are still searching this morning for a family that disappeared after a Colorado landslide last week. That is the correct answer because it's focusing on what is still happening. Number 2, a family that disappeared in last week's Colorado landslide is still the subject of a rescue mission for crews. It's passive voice and it's dated, right? It's not focusing on that now element. Number 3, the landslide in Colorado happened last week. Already we know that's not right because you just led the lead with talking about last week, and we want to avoid that. Number 7, the company had been in business for 17 years is correct. We would use numerals for 17. You don't spell it out like number 2, and you certainly don't put a random dash in between the numerals, as is the case in number 3. Which sentence uses proper broadcast style? One rescuer who got too close to the toxic gas suffered second-degree burns. So this is a question of how we treat second-degree burns. We're going to spell out second, which you would know if you look at the tip sheet. And we're going to put a dash in there to make the anchor realize that that is said as one word, second degree, right? Not second degree. Number 9, the judge ordered the company to pay out over $150 million to the victims. We're going to use numerals for 150, spell out million. Number 2 uses a dollar sign. We don't do that. And number 3 is unnecessary spelling out of the numbers. We don't spell out $150 million. And then number 4 uses the full numeral, which is impossible to read on the fly. Number 10, what's the point of the nugget method? Well, the point is to ensure that key facts make it into your story, right? We list out our nuggets so that we make sure that our stories have information value. We don't want to just end up stringing one soundbite to the next. We want to actually tell people something, and that's why we do the nuggets. They're small and delicious and not that nutritious, but at least people are getting something from the story. In class on Tuesday, I did. Remember I told you that story? I said, I'm going to tell you a great story, and then it turns out I didn't tell you a good story at all. I told you about the Lee Monument coming down, and it was a very bizarre way of explaining that. And you would know that if you were in class, and this is something I want to point out about quizzes. You're allowed to have absences, but you will miss material, right? You're going to miss stuff that's on quizzes. You're going to miss stuff that would help you in later assignments, and that's just part of it. No one assignment, no one missed quiz question is ever going to tank your grade in this class. So, if you miss something here and there from being out of class, it's really not that big of a deal. It becomes a big deal when you miss a lot of class, obviously. So that's just something you're going to see on quizzes, is just me measuring your level of participation. Broadcast leads always include attribution. Definitely not true. That is false. We often do not have attribution in broadcast leads unless it's absolutely necessary, because it makes it pretty clunky. We don't use according to in broadcast leads, especially. Which of the following are attributes of a hard news lead in broadcast? Well, they emphasize what's happening now. Absolutely. They set up the frame of the story. Remember, we talked a lot about that. And they're meant to quickly and clearly tell the audience the point of the story. Who did what? They obviously don't include attribution most of the time, and they're definitely not long. Those are called suitcase leads, the who, what, where, when, why leads that you can write in print writing. Can't really do that in broadcast, so they're often actually pretty short. Is this a soft lead or a hard lead? Crews are still cleaning up Broad Street this morning after a truckload of eggs crashed into a utility pole. It's a hard news lead. It's what happened. Crews are cleaning up. Where are they cleaning up? Broad Street. When? This morning. Why? What happened? A truck full of eggs crashed into a utility pole. Don't be confused by the fact that it's probably a funny story, right? There's eggs all over Broad Street. That's interesting, but that doesn't make it a soft news lead. It's a really basic who did what lead. Which sentence uses proper broadcast style? The first one is correct. The city's finance committee will hold its first meeting next Monday. Remember, we talked at length about its versus they, and it's a collective noun like a committee or the FBI or any sort of group. You're going to use it, not they, because it's not in fact plural. What happens after your third absence in this class? Well, you're going to lose 5% from your final course grade. Obviously, these asynchronous classes are a bit of a weird exception to that, but we'll be back in person, and I would like you to be there. And if you would not like to be there, you'll lose some points off. How would you improve this broadcast sentence? The crash occurred. That you should stop right there, because the word occurred is terrible. Don't use it in broadcast writing. The word should be something like happened. You want to be really conversational. You would never call your mom and say, "Mom, you'll never believe what just occurred." So don't do it in your broadcast writing either. But this is a good example of, I'm going to ask you a lot of times, well, what's wrong with this? And not give you an explicit direction to look. You just have to start to recognize what's the matter with these sentences. And then number 18, which version of this sentence should you use in a broadcast reader? The Hanover County Sheriff says the train left the tracks around 9 a.m. So that's the only one number 2 starts with according to, which is attribution. And we don't want to use according to at the beginning of the sentence if we can avoid it. We just want to say the Hanover County Sheriff says. Says is always preferable to according to in broadcast writing. And then number 3 does the same thing, right? The train left the tracks around 9 a.m., comma, according to the Hanover County Sheriff. We almost never do comma, according to. Very common in print, not common in broadcast. And then number 4 is the Hanover County Sheriff said the train left the tracks around 9 a.m. Said is, we want to avoid that too, right? Says, say, we can use present tense. So avoid past tense, and then of course avoiding according to. You want to go outside? Okay. That is a wrap up on quiz 1. And you guys can take quiz 2. Again, you can always hit me up with questions via my inbox. I'll be around all day Thursday and Friday if you have questions about quiz 2, or if you have questions about your radio pitch.